Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that's honestly super relevant to, well, pretty much all of us right now, the architectures of resilience. Specifically, we're looking at how we can reclaim our modern biological immunity. If you've been feeling vulnerable, run down, or just totally exhausted by the constant cycle of getting sick, you're in the right place. Let's look at the clinical data together to uncover a real biological blueprint to rebuild our defenses from the cellular level up.
So, why does it feel like literally everyone is getting sick lately? Seriously, think about it. You've probably noticed it in your office, with your family, or maybe even in your own life. It feels like the moment you get over one cough, another one just swoops in to take its place. Well, you aren't imagining things. It's not just in your head. There is a documented heightened susceptibility to acute illnesses happening across modern populations right now. Today, we're going to uncover exactly why that is, and more importantly, how we can actually fix it.
Here's our roadmap for today. First, the modern immunity crisis. Then, the drivers of immune vulnerability, followed by the proactive wellness paradigm, and finally, your 5-step action plan.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the modern immunity crisis. Let's talk about a really fascinating concept called the immunity gap. You know how during the pandemic we were all masking up, distancing, and staying inside? Well, that did an amazing job of keeping major bugs away, but clinically speaking, it created a transient epidemiological anomaly. Basically, entire populations missed out on routine, low-grade ambient exposures. Why does that matter? Because those tiny, everyday encounters with germs are exactly what maintain our robust antibody levels against common respiratory viruses. By hiding from everything, we kind of accidentally let our baseline viral defenses power down. And man, the consequence of that gap, it's staggering. When you look at the tracking data, influenza A positivity rates absolutely skyrocketed to 32.5% on standard respiratory panels following the relaxation of those public health policies. Our collective immune systems were basically caught completely off guard.
But wait, it wasn't just the flu. Mycoplasma pneumonia also surged to an 18% positivity rate. That is massive. This brought on these really severe, out-of-season viral surges that completely overwhelmed frontline healthcare infrastructure year-round. So that explains the epidemiological side of the crisis. But there's a whole other half to this equation going on behind the scenes.
That brings us to Section 2, drivers of immune vulnerability.
First up on the list of things sabotaging our defenses, lack of sleep. Recent genetic data points to this strict sleep-immune crosstalk. Basically, when you skimp on sleep, it literally alters how your bone marrow produces immune cells, and it directly triggers a cascade of inflammation. Simply put, lack of sleep biologically blunts your body's primary viral defense. That's exactly why a mild cold that should last 3 days suddenly turns into this awful, weeks-long ordeal. Your body's cellular army is just too exhausted to fight.
And that leads us right into our next major vulnerability. Get this. Roughly 70% of your entire immune system lives right inside your gut microbiome. Let that sink in for a second. 70%. That means whatever we choose to put into our digestive system directly, and I mean directly, dictates how well we can fight off illness. Which makes this insight from the 2025 clinical data so incredibly striking. It says, ultra-processed foods act as a biological Trojan horse. Think about how much of the modern food landscape is dominated by UPFs. They might look like quick, convenient nourishment, but inside, they're smuggling in endocrine-disrupting chemicals and advanced glycation end products. These compounds actively chew away at your gut's mucosal lining. They trigger systemic, low-grade inflammation, and they leave your body basically starving for actual micronutrients. To put the clinical cost into perspective, for every 10% increase in ultra-processed food consumption, there's a directly correlated 10% increase in all-cause mortality. Wow! Eating a diet heavy in these foods significantly accelerates biological aging and structurally cripples your body's baseline defenses. You are effectively disarming the biggest chunk of your immune system right there in your gut.
So how do we fix it? Let's move to Section 3, the proactive wellness paradigm.
To break out of this cycle of vulnerability, we absolutely have to shift our framework. Reactive medicine is just waiting around until we get sick to treat an active disease. But proactive wellness? That's the active, deliberate optimization of our biological, mental, and environmental systems. It's about playing offense instead of constantly playing defense.
Which brings us to the exciting part. Section 4, your 5-step action plan. Here are the 5 foundational steps we're going to implement sequentially. A 45-minute digital curfew,
an 80-20 whole food mandate, 10 minutes of morning light, a 500 milliliter hydration protocol, and a 10-minute tech-free walk. Let's break down the biological magic behind each one of these.
Step 1 is the 45-minute digital curfew. That means powering off all screens, smartphones, tablets, the TV, exactly 45 minutes before you plan to sleep. Why? Because cutting out artificial blue light stops it from suppressing your natural melatonin. And when you rescue your melatonin, your brain can easily slide right into those deep, slow-wave sleep phases. Remember what we said earlier? That deep sleep is exactly when your body manufactures those vital infection-fighting cytokines. You're literally building your internal army while you snooze.
Moving on to step 2, the 80-20 whole food mandate. The goal here is getting at least 80% of your daily calories from single-ingredient, unprocessed whole foods like veggies, wild-caught proteins, and nuts, leaving just a 20% margin for the convenient stuff. The biology here is super cool. By ditching that UPF Trojan horse, you actively starve harmful gut bacteria and help seal up your intestinal lining. Plus, real whole foods deliver the heavy hitters, things like zinc and vitamin C, straight to the 70% of your immune cells hanging out in your gut.
All right. Step 3, 10 minutes of low-angle morning light. Within 60 minutes of waking up, step outside and just view natural morning sunlight for 10 consecutive minutes, without sunglasses. The mechanism here is absolutely incredible. When photons of light hit specialized receptors in your eyes, it directly anchors your brain's master internal clock. This triggers a healthy morning cortisol spike to give you energy for the day and, get this, it simultaneously starts a biological countdown timer for your sleep quality that night. It's literally setting a timer by the sun.
Step 4 is a 500 milliliter hydration protocol the moment you wake up. Keep a bottle of pure water right by your bed and down 500 milliliters immediately, before you even touch coffee or food. Think about it, you lose a ton of respiratory fluid overnight just from breathing. Gulping down that water instantly rehydrates your cells, wakes up your metabolism, and crucially, it re-moistens the mucosal barriers in your upper respiratory tract. You're basically putting up a physical, slippery shield against airborne viruses right out of the gate.
And finally, step 5, a daily 10-minute tech-free decompression walk. Sometime midday, take a quick stroll outside completely untethered. No headphones, no podcasts, no notifications. This acts like a mini sensory fast. Deliberately stepping away from that constant barrage of input shifts your autonomic nervous system out of that frantic fight-or-flight mode and into a parasympathetic rest and digest state. It drops your stress hormones fast, effectively taking the brakes off your body's natural cellular repair mechanisms so you can actually start healing.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. We looked at the hard data behind the immunity crisis, the hidden biological drivers making us vulnerable, and a proven, science-backed framework to build proactive wellness. Now, I want to leave you with this one question. Which of these 5 steps are you going to implement tomorrow morning to reclaim your biological resilience? Seriously, you don't have to tackle the whole shebang at once. Picking just one of these protocols will start shifting you away from vulnerability and into a state of absolute, rock-solid resilience. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on this explainer, and hey, I challenge you to take action on your health today.